Hello there, this is Tim Wertz again, and I want to welcome you to another session of the Gospel of Wow series, Meditations on the Preciousness of Life. Now, this session is called The Bittersweet Breakfast, Let Love Rule, and we'll explore that. But for the most part, we'll be answering the question or exploring the question, what is love? What is love? So if you're not familiar with the Gospel of Wow series, what I'm doing is basically approaching different, let's just say, wow factors of life and exploring them in different ways, using scripture, using popular songs from the 1970s, also using science, using personal experience, and contemplation, or different types of guided meditations. So we explore these wow factors of life because they are good news. They are kind of a version of gospel, of the universe, of life itself, for God, for anything you can imagine. Let's just call it existence, right? Very interesting wow factors. And this particular one, as I mentioned before, will be about this idea, this concept, this thing that drives so much of our life, which is love, right? Is love a human construct, right? Is it something that just evolved as humanity evolved? Is it something that is built into the fabric of nature and existence itself? Well, let's find out. In case you don't know, this is an audio-visual presentation, so there will be a lot of visuals. So I'm going to shift into presentation mode right now, and we'll get started. Again, the title of this session is The Bittersweet Breakfast, Let Love Rule. And the question I want to ask you, right, is how do you approach life? How do you experience life? How do you see life? Now, this is a type of question that is so baked into us, right? It's so baked into who we are and how we've been raised, the culture, everything around us has shaped us that we rarely actually see how we approach life, how we experience life. It's a very important question because it, if you think about it, dictates a good bit of our life, right? Do we approach life as constant challenges? Do we approach life as a wonderful, interesting opportunity? Do we approach life as a gift, or we approach life as a chore? And that may change throughout our own life. But just hold that question. And I would say that the whole series of Gospel of Wow is my attempt to shift my own approach to life, honestly, my own experience in a way that is healthy. And by healthy, I mean to experience moment to moment life through much more gratitude, much more reverence, much more appreciation, much more connectivity with others, with life around me, essentially with the awareness, right? The awareness of the preciousness of these moments we've been given. Fully acknowledging at the same time, because that can sound kind of la, 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 but fully acknowledging that life does have challenges. It does have suffering. It does have heartbreak. Know that that's part of it. That's part of the ride. So how do you see or approach or experience life? So to help us explore this question right up front, before we dig into love, I always use a wow quote in these sessions. And this wow quote comes from one of my favorite books of all times. And I first read it when I was a teenager. And it's the book Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, many of you, if you like science fiction, you probably have read Dune or at least saw the movie or the TV series. It's been recreated multiple times, mainly because it is such a cultural icon. It was written back in 1965, and it's much more than just science fiction. If you're familiar with it, there's a lot of spiritual themes to it. And there was one quote that I didn't pick up on when I was a teenager, but 2 or 3 decades later, when I was reading the book again with my then teenage son, this quote stuck out for me. And the quote is this: "The mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience." The mystery of life. And we can all agree, I think, that life is a mystery. Why do we exist as opposed to not exist, right? Even though we have this scientific worldview that's so integrated with us, nonetheless, at some point, regardless of all the questions you think we can answer, life's a mystery. But the mystery of life is what Herbert is saying, isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. Recall the question, how do you see life? How do we see life? Do we see life as a problem to solve? A lot of times that is very, very true. Now, when researching for this session, coming up with the quote, I realized that Herbert borrowed, if you will, from, and I didn't know this at the time, from one of my favorite philosophers. And that philosopher, back in the 19th century, Soren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, many considered the first existentialist philosopher. And Soren Kierkegaard wrote on what I don't think we could really appreciate that much today, because the worldview, he was in the middle of the shift from a more theological worldview where God pulled the strings on everything to more of a scientific modern worldview. And he could feel that tension, right? So he wrote from it. By the way, we're in the worldview. It's shifted over to, it's much more scientific, much more modern now. So we don't struggle with this as much. But here's what Kierkegaard said. Now, he starts to quote a little bit different than Herbert. He said, life can only be understood backwards. And that's even debatable. But life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Right? We can't live in the past. Right? We can look back. We think we can understand it, but we can't live in the past. It must be lived forward. And here's the money quote. Life is not a problem to be solved. Right? It's not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Now, again, remember, he is struggling with this new worldview, the scientific worldview, and I'm not knocking it. It is where life took us, is where life has taken us. But it does have a tendency to see everything's a problem to be solved. And he is saying, no, it's a reality. I like to say it's a mystery. It's a mystery to be experienced. It brings it back to more experiential sensations, experience personally, experience culturally, experience interconnectedness, experience in general. So how do you experience life? Do you tend to experience it as a problem to be solved, as obstacles to be overcome, as accomplishments to be checked off? Or do you actually experience this mystery, this life given, and really in a more full way, right? A more experiential way. Now, another more modern day philosopher, Alan Watts, one of my favorite, he has a similar quote, but it's put a little bit more poetically, I think, as Alan Watts often can do. The man was a genius in really merging the Eastern philosophy and the Western philosophy back in the 50s and 60s in a way that was enlightening, informational, educational, but also entertaining. He was very much, I think, an entertainer. And he had his issues. He never said, I'm a guru, right? But he loved talking about this, and he really has touched a lot of people, even after his death in 1973. And here's what he said that is very similar to the previous quotes. The only way to make sense out of the change of life, he was referring to previously, the context is constant change in life, right? Life is constantly changing. The only way to make sense out of the change of life is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. To me, this is a more poetic way of saying what Herbert and Kierkegaard said, which is we can't make sense out of everything. We can't solve all the problems. We're not meant to solve all the problems. You'll try to solve all the problems, then you'll be on your deathbed, right? Is at some point you just plunge into life, you do it, you move with it. And he loved the idea of life being a dance, of being music, where you don't just wait for the end of the dance, right? You enjoy the whole dance, you enjoy the whole piece of music. So how do you approach life? Well, resolution. I'm recording this at the beginning of a new year, and a lot of people will make New Year's resolutions. But as we all know, and I've got to the age where I think, well, maybe I'll get this done this year, but I don't do resolutions anymore. But we're going to do a resolution here and now and actually do it and check it off. We're going to do a meditation, and the meditation will be inspired by the quotes we just went through. We're going to experience the mystery of life at this very moment. And we're not going to solve any problems. So if you will, and that's a good thing, right? We're going to let go, experience the mystery of life. And you should know and realize that this is something you could do at any point, anytime during the day, even while you're doing other things. You'll see. So please sit, gently close your eyes. And take 3 deep breaths. Now allow your breathing to fall into its natural rhythm. And just feel the sensation of breathing. Something we've done since the day we were born. Now, as you breathe gently, relax the muscles around your eyes and your forehead. Soften your cheeks. Soften your lips and your jaw. Allow it to just gently hang. Relax your neck and your shoulders. Allow your arms to hang loose. Allow any tension in your back and your chest and your belly to soften. Relax your hips. Your upper legs, allow them to just be at ease, no tension. Your lower legs and your feet, allow them to just release and relax. Now feel all the sensations of being in a human body. There's no need to label these sensations. Just feel them, experience them. Notice the different sensations for the temperature on your skin, the pressure of the seat, cloth on your body, tingles all within your body. Notice the variety of sensations that we rarely ever notice within and outside of our body. Even drop the idea that you have a body and allow these sensations to just be as they are, almost like a cloud of sensations gathered together. Even experience your thoughts, any thinking that you think that you're doing, as simply more sensations. Allow any thinking or thoughts to just be part of this larger cloud of bodily sensations. Now imagine that there's no real boundary on your body, that your awareness can soften and expand into the room. And notice all of the sensations of sounds. Even imagine you can experience the sensation of the air in the room. Feel a sense of expansion in space. And listen to everything around you. Listen by relaxing, not by straining or giving any effort. Notice that you do not need to do anything for sounds to come and go. They come and go on their own. Notice how sounds will mix and mingle with your bodily sensations. How they may reverberate through your entire being. Forget the idea that there's an inside of you and an outside, and just simply be all of the experiences. Soften any boundaries. And for the next few minutes, simply sit, be still, and experience the mystery of life flowing through you. On your next inhalation, please breathe in a bit deeper, expanding your lungs, pausing at the top, and then exhale, release, and relax, and open your eyes. Thank you for that. That is a simple way to experience the mystery of life. We tend to live in our heads so much, captured by our thoughts, our beliefs, constantly captured, conversing with ourselves, with imaginary people, rehearsing things that we think may happen in the future, or rehashing things that happened in the past. We're up here so much, we never soften, relax, and just experience life. The mind, our thinking mind, is a problem-solving machine, right? And it has become our preeminent way of identifying ourselves in the modern world. But you are experiencing this mystery of life at all times. It's just easier to recognize if you can become less captured by your mind and your thoughts.